All right, let's start. I would suggest you can ask your questions at the end of our session. So let's go. Like I said, my name is Fabian Honervogt. I'm from Xiting, and today we talk about the Xiting Adaptive Fiori UIs, or short XIFI, for the SAP Identity Management. So here's our agenda for today. I will begin with some facts about Xiting. Afterwards, we have the challenges for the IDM UI and our solution. Afterwards, we have the benefits of the Fiori UIs, and then we'll jump into the system and you will see some UIs. So Xiting was founded in 2008 in Switzerland. From then on, we got subsidiaries in Germany, UK, US, and our latest subsidiary was opened in Romania 2 years ago. We switched to the partner sales in 2013, and currently we have about 80 employees worldwide. But we are still growing, and most of our consultants are SAP trainers. So we are the silver partner in the service authorizations and SAP analytics and database and management. We have the recognized expertise certificate for governance, risk, and compliance. And our newest certification is the XAMS for integration of the SAP for-HANA. So like I said, we have our headquarters in Switzerland, and then subsidiaries over Europe and Germany and the UK, also in the US, and our latest city was Cluj in Romania, where we have built we are currently building our support center for XAMS and also for identity management. Here we have our portfolio. So our main product is XAMS. We have a lot of services, like I mentioned, the training, for example, of the ADM 920 in the German-speaking area. We have, for example, our RFC redesign, and we are also big in the consulting. So today we are talking about the SAP Identity Management, like I mentioned, but we also have a lot of experts in SAP authorizations and SSO and so on. So like I said, what are the challenges? If you know SAP IDM, you maybe know the very old WebDynpro UI, and that SAP has no strategy for the UI itself. So a lot of customers reject the projects for IDM because of the UI. So we had to find an option to get it more attractive for the customer, and so we built the Fiori UIs. We started 4 years ago with a small application to request roles with a filter built in to reduce the amount of total roles for the end user. Afterwards, we built an application for the approvals, and now we have built a whole UI suite for your SAP IDM. And it's a modern user interface with a better user experience for the end user. You don't need any new hardware because we deploy the UIs on the RS Java on which the IDM is running. The UIs are built of the best practice, and you can customize them if you want. So here we have an overview about the architecture. So you should know, if you're familiar with IDM, that we have the Eclipse environment, which is connected to the IDM database. And we have the AS Java, where the runtime of IDM runs. And our solution for the Fiori UIs was that the end user connects to the Fiori UIs. The Fiori UIs communicate via the REST API to the IDM database and gets all information. for example, of the forms and the data in these forms. Everything is maintained via the Eclipse. So here we have two screenshots. On the left side, we have the old WebDynPro UI. And on the right side, we have a preview of our XIFI SP2, which will be shown later in our demonstration. Since SP2, we are using the so-called Fiori cards. With the old tiles were outdated, so Fiori uses now cards. But we'll see them afterwards in the demonstration, like I said. Here we see how you maintain data or change data in the Eclipse. So here we have, for example, a formula for the modify identity with the presentation and attributes, and all attributes which are changed either on formulas or on entry types, or the presentation of these attributes are changed in the Fiori UI without changing any code of the Fiori. This is an overview about the implementation process, so it's very easy. You only have to download the SCA files and download the IDM packages. These SCA files need to be deployed on the AS Java. The IDM packages need to be imported into your Eclipse, and the license needs to be activated. Afterwards, you can call the UI via this URL. It's your hostname port / Xiting adaptive UI. So if you're familiar with IDM, your old WebDynPro UI is called via hostname port / IDM. So it's a similar way. Here's our roadmap for the XIFI. We try to deliver a new SP every 6 months. So the next SP3 will be delivered at the end of this year. Some highlights of the SP3 are extension points, for example, that you can implement or include your own Fiori applications. The second highlight is the update of the to-do list. We'll see it later in the presentation. So you get all information you know from the WebDynPro UI. And the third highlight are the assignments. So you can show the hierarchy of the assignments. For example, if you have privileges in business roles, they will be shown in a tree view. You can select history and future assignments, and you can retry or modify the validity of the assigned roles. Yes. Here's one question from where do you have the implemented customer reference? I don't know what you're meaning currently. Could you just precise your question? So maybe we can go on and talk about this question later. So here we have our benefits of the Fiori UI. So it's, first of all, it's adaptable. That means you don't have to change any code. So you would deploy it on the server and the UIs get all information from the IDM database. Second one, it's multilingual. That means the UIs gets the languages from IDM. So you don't have to maintain any specific language. If the language is maintained in your IDM system, the UI gets this language. The third benefit are the design variants. So you can easily change the theme of your Fiori and change it to your corporate identity of your company. The fourth one, it's role-based access. So if you're maintaining the access control in your Eclipse, sorry, this access control will be pulled via the REST API into your Fiori UIs, and you can only see the forms which are meant for you. The fifth benefit are the favorites. So maybe if you're familiar with your WebDynpro UIs, you can select forms as your favorites for your daily work, for example. These informations will also pull from the Fiori UIs and will be shown in the Fiori UIs as your favorites. The other way around, if you're selecting cards in your Fiori UI as favorites, they will be saved in the IDM database, and the WebDynpro UIs also show these as your favorites. And of course, we have regular releases, like I mentioned. You will get each 6 months an update on your IDM Fiori UIs if you want. Okay, got the question. We have currently implemented it at 2 customers in the productive system, but we have several customers where it's implemented in the test system. So you are able to get a test license if you want, and then we will implement it in your system, and you can check it for your needs, and if this fits your needs. Okay. So if you have any questions, we can jump into the system. There's one more question. Okay, you're welcome. So let's go into the system. So for those who are not familiar with IDM, this is the original WebDynpro UI. In IDM, you have several tabs like the self-services tab, the to-do tab to approve requests, and the manage tab where you can select different entry types. For example, the person, and then you can search for a user. Like I mentioned, a lot of customers reject projects because it's outdated and not so nice. If you now jump into the Fiori UI, you see it here. We have on the left side several topics like we had in the WebDynpro on the top. We have our self-services, we have favorites, we have our to-do tab, and afterwards we can select an entry type, for example, the MX person, and can also search for a user here. Now, what can you do in this UI? If we select the user, you can click on the user, and afterwards you get all forms which are available for your user. As you see here, we have 2 favorite tasks. It's the change identity and the display identity, which are marked with a star. But below, we have several other tasks like delete identity or assign privileges, roles, and groups. If we now open the change identity, for example, here it is. Oops. So we can now check it first in the WebDynpro UI, change identity, and you see it's built like it's built like the same. We have the tabs on the top. We have also the tabs on here in the Fiori UI, and all attributes are exactly at the same spot. So it's pretty easy to jump from the WebDynpro UI to the Fiori UIs. All right. So, and the most important thing, or the best thing, is, like I said, if you change anything in the Eclipse now, it will be changed in your Fiori UIs immediately. So I will show it to you in the Web Dinpro UI first. You see it here on the settings. I will change the user type. So the user type is just drop down where you can select communications data, dialog, and so on. If we now jump into our Eclipse, I can select the attribute MX user type, go to the presentations tab, and here you see the presentation is single select, which is a drop down. If I change it to radio button, for example, and save it, just refresh our Web Dinpro UI, and you see it's changed to the radio buttons. The same as in the Fiori UIs. You don't have to do any code changes. So come on. If we go to settings, you see the user type is changed also to the radio button. And we can do it the way around. Change it again to single select, save it, refresh. And hopefully, yep, here it is. Settings again, and then you see it's changed immediately. And this is one of the biggest benefits of the Fiori UIs. Another great opportunity is if you change, let's go to the selection of entry types. So maybe I can show it you first here. If we have, for example, roles, we have several columns in here. It's a unique ID, display name, and so on. In this case, we have 5 org set level. You're going to the entry type, MX role, and here we have the 5 org set level. If we are removing one and save it, refresh it, and then you will see it will be changed immediately in the system. So this is the Web Dinpro here. May take some seconds to refresh it, but it's like I showed you at the attribute, it will be changed afterwards, or after some seconds. All right. Like I said, we have the self-services like in the Web Dinpro UI. We have our favorites and we have the to-do tab. So here's one of the biggest highlights for our SP3. You see it here. We have information about this request. This is for Janina Meister. She has requested 2 roles, but you don't have any information of the assignment. So if we are just comparing it to the Web Dinpro, you have the information, but if you select a request, you have more information of it. So you see who has requested it, the expiry date of the role, and so on. Have also approval history. And here's what I can show you as a sneak peek of our SP3. This is our development system. So here we also have one request. It's a little bit different, but you see it's in here. And if we look at it in our Fiori UI, we can go to the to-do tab, see it here. So the first look is identical to the old, but if you select it, like I said, you have all informations like in the Web Dinpro. And this is one big step in the future. And this was important and was requested by several customers, which also have this SP2. In this case, we only have let's see what this is. A Z test. That's a business role. So that was the display name of the role. So here see, it's just the name of the business role. So this was a role selection or a role request. We could request a role. Let's give me a second. If we go, now we will try something. So we are selecting a user. For example, Klaus Wolf. And then we want to assign a role to this user. Let's get the right task. Assign privileges, roles, and groups. So then we can search for a role. Okay. Sorry. So just give me. That does not work. So let's select a role. Sorry. So we can check this in our other system. So here we are in the productive system. Here we have also a request form. Like I said, here's a logged in user, the SSG manager 1, but you can also select another user who should get this role. And then you can use a filter format. So here we have 3 systems, for example, the XIFI 500. And then you can drill down via org sets. And here it is. Oh, come on. And New York. So here you have 6 roles. And now we can select, for example, the 2 key user roles, add them to our selection. Here's an overview again. If you remember, we have the columns which are shown on the entry type. You see it here. Here's the 5th org set missing, so it changed in the background already. Now we can add a validity from today until Saturday and need it for testing. Now it's sent to the IDM. If we now go back to the IDM, and we also have to change the user because we requested the role for the user. Was it? Just let me check. Okay, here we see them. They are requested for Tim Cole, so he's manager 1, and they're assigned to admin 2. If we check them now in our Fiori UI, we also have to change the user in here. We need to log off. Log on with the admin 2 to get the right approvals for this user. Unfortunately, he's pulling the data. Okay, next question is, can you also maintain role catalogs where somebody can see only roles for his organization? But this depends how your IDM is set up. If you want to assign the roles with a Fiori form, then you can set up who should see which roles. Of course, that's possible. In our case, that's not implemented, but technically that's possible, and it's just in your IDM. It's not in the Fiori UIs. All right. Are there any other questions? There's one question. Do you cater for attestations? Yes, that's also possible, that your attestations are shown on the to-do tab. But in our system, it's not implemented yet. But also technically, that's no problem. So, anyone else worth a question? So we had questions from Reto Meyer and Onlin Kapp. Anyone else? Okay. Yes, so it was a little bit quicker than we wanted to have. Oh, there's one question from Reto Meyer. Do you have business roles that contain several access rights from different applications? Yes. Like that's an IDM topic. Yes, of course. Business roles could contain several applications. For example, SAP systems or ABAP systems, AD or ADs. That's possible. Yes. All right. Yes, like I said, if there are any questions, just type them in the chat, or you're also possible to send me an email afterwards, and then we could set up an extension meeting for your company and talk about the opportunities to implement Fiori at your system. Do you have demonstration tools for showing to customers the new interface? Like I said, we can give you a test license for this, and we'll set up a meeting. We will deploy it at your system, and then we will show it to you how it works in your system, and then you can work with it and test it for a couple of weeks, and then we can see what can be done in the future. The recorded video will be sent to you after our session. All right. So here are some IDM or some exciting references. And like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to contact me either yet in the chat or afterwards or via email. And then I would like to thank you for your time, and yeah, have a great day.